The Dirty Podcast.
Welcome to Drinks and Discussions, the RPG podcast, otherwise known as the Dirty Cast, is us. And we're here to talk about, today we're going to be talking about TTRPGs, what it means to be a player. We did a series on this where we talked about what does it mean, what is a TTRPG, what does that even entail, who plays those, why. We talked about what does it mean to DM one of those, storytell one of those, run one of those yourself. Now, today we're going to be talking about what it means to be a player. What to expect, what you should bring to the table, how you should behave, common do's and don'ts, whatever we want to get into. But before we do that, whiskey sips with the D's again. For those of you who don't know, we already did this once before, but I'm a professional streamer and had us completely muted, so let's go again.
Let's do it again. So anyways, so tonight
What do you
I'm
got?
drinking Lazy River.
What?
It's a Kentucky straight bourbon. It's got
Kentucky? That's
Kentucky.
where I live.
Whoa, what a coincidence. Great whiskey. I really enjoy it. It's got it's a bourbon, so it's got good brown sugar notes, vanilla if you're into that. And just enough a little bit of like cherry kind of thing to it. So yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm drinking a bourbon as well, and I definitely get that the brown sugar
Brown sugar
to it. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
As soon
That's
as you said
pretty
it, I was
common.
sitting here, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, it's a common thing for most bourbons. So I kind of I'll be honest, bourbons are not my favorite because I just think they are very. I have yet to be convinced that there's a whole lot of depth to the flavor other than the brown sugar, vanilla, cherry. That's kind of what I usually get across most of the ones. There's ones here and there that I can kind of pick out something different, but
I was gonna say, I don't know what all they put in this one, but I'm getting a raspberry tint.
A raspberry.
Like, there's definitely a berry tint to it, and I was trying to
like
place it like what one it would put it to, and the closest I could get is like a raspberry tart.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're drinking something different.
Woohoo!
Oh yeah, I'm not drinking what he's drinking. I'm drinking my old Kentucky home. It's a single barrel, 100 proof Kentucky whiskey as well. It's Kentucky bourbon whiskey. Adis, what's the difference? Like, if I'm like, it's a whiskey. No, wait, it's a bourbon. No, wait, it's both?
Yeah, so whiskey is just kind of the, and I implore people to go and take a look at Urban Rogue. They have a great series where they collabed with Whiskey Vault, and they went into depth about all this stuff. But whiskey is just really the vehicle for, like saying the word vehicle when you're referring to a car.
Yeah.
It's a way to describe the thing. You will have different spellings, but depending on the origins of the whiskey. But then you break it down into, you got your scotches, you got your bourbons, you got your ryes, and that all kind of starts to come and break down into the type of mash bill that it has, as well as some of the other characteristics of how the grains were treated going into the mash.
So are all bourbons a whiskey?
Yes. All bourbons are whiskeys, but not all whiskeys
the
are
parent
bourbons.
company, bourbon is the franchise.
Sure.
Business.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I got. It's a single barrel Kentucky bourbon whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
There you
go. I decided I wanted to be different, so I have an Irish whiskey.
Yeah, two of us matched up with
There you
Kentucky whiskeys. An Irish whiskey, I believe it's one you've shown us before, but let's see what we can find out about it.
Tullamore Dew. I don't really know anything to tell you. I'm
Oh,
a
yeah.
whiskey aficionado. I just I like it.
I'm trying to be a whiskey aficionado, but I'm too fucking broke, so that's why I rely on a decent Tough Nuts as well. They're both got big into whiskey, and they're good guys to pull knowledge from. So what do you know about Tullamore Dew, Mr. Whiskey Sips with the D's?
Yeah, so Tullamore Dew, fantastic, just Irish. Got a nice shortbread sort of flavor to it. So kind of like that, and that comes from the unpeated or the non-peated barley that goes into the mash bill. Um, uh,
How the fuck
yeah.
they retain this kind of information is just beyond me. Like, somebody asked me what I was getting up to tomorrow. I'm like, I have no idea. I have to calendar everything or else I forget. Like, I don't know. He's like, yeah, no, there's a specific mash they put in that specific type of whiskey, and I know all about it from seeing the label. And I'm like, how? What? Like, I would have to Google that, and then if you ask me 30 seconds later, I would have to Google it again. Like,
Well, that's I'll roll up my sleeve, show you nothing's up my sleeves.
Yeah.
The thing about that is Irish whiskey. That's one thing that they did back in the day because there was a tax from Britain on the peated amount of barley that you put into the bill. So what they did was to offset some of like they needed. So you need 8 ounces. So let's just say you need 8 ounces of grain to make up a bottle of whiskey. That's nowhere close to it, I know, but we're just for even numbers' sake.
Okay.
But you didn't want to get taxed on all 8 ounces of that. So what you did was you taxed yourself on the 6 ounces that you put in of the peated whiskey or of the peated barley, and then you'd put 2 ounces of unpeated barley in there with it, and you made the mash bill out of that, and that gives Irish whiskeys their signature shortbread flavor to them. Yeah.
I think I might go pick up an Irish whiskey. It's been a while since I've had a good Irish. What would
I would
you guys
recommend the Tullamore Dew. It's relatively cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tullamore Dew is a good
Cheap is
one.
great. That's that's my favorite flavor.
I will say, yeah, Tough Nuts actually put me onto a really good one that I
hang on.
personally
Tough
like
Nuts
too.
is bougie as fuck. Before we
Okay,
even say
yeah.
Tough Nuts, when you're like
Okay,
Tough Nuts
so-
put me onto a good one, I'm like, okay, bro, I don't have $700 to put down on a whiskey right now. All right,
Hey,
Tough
hey,
Nuts
that
be
Johnny
bougie.
Walker Blue labeled, you know.
Yeah.
So if you can find it though, this is actually one of the more reasonable
Yeah,
priced
I got
ones.
this whiskey that only comes out on the 17th at 9:00 p.m. once every 20 years, and it costs $750. But you know, you should try it. I'm like, bruh.
We do have one of those, but
Fucking
no.
Holy Grail. I can't get that. Like,
No, but Napoke Castle actually is actually a really affordable, really good single pot still Irish whiskey that just hits all the right notes for what I consider really good Irish whiskey.
what's the damage on that one?
About $40.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, put it in Discord. I'll see if I can get it. That's not.
It's better when you're from somewhere that doesn't have insane taxes like here. But
That's true.
you know.
Yeah, you guys do have bad taxes there.
Yeah.
Okay. That brings us over to our. Are you turning on your camera?
I was mostly waiting for you guys, like your voices, to stop glitching out on my end. My internet is real bad over here.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe keep camera off. This is Pickles. Pickles, tell us about the super awesome, epic, delicious drink that you have.
Yes, I'm Mr. Pickles. I'm the ghost in your ears that you can't really see, that you feel uncomfortable about. The delicious drink that I'm consuming this evening is a 16-ounce Keystone of the Light. It's one of the light beers, as you might call it, characterized by tasting like nothing and
Like,
being very cheap.
Its weight is lighter, or like its skin color is lighter, or like it's.
No, it just tastes like water that's vaguely something else. It's a very subtle flavor, light.
Flavored water. Keystone of the Light. All right.
Keeps me hydrated.
Kind of. That's what beer does. Yeah. So that brings us to the topic of today. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Rath. I run RPG channel community. Done this for on and off for 5 years or so. Been in the gaming and RPG scene for 20 years, give or take. So a little bit of experience. I'm here with Mr. Pickles. He actually got me into TTRPGs. He's been in and around them for what, 20 years?
I mean, I'm 30, and I guess I started when I was 14.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been doing D&D longer than I haven't.
42. We've got Fred. Fred is recently new, but has some experience. Fred, you come from more, I guess if we're talking modern day, if we were to give our modern day stats, I would be an RPG gamer. I think Pickles, what would you consider yourself, a simulation gamer? With RimWorld being
I
a focus in
played
that?
RimWorld in quite a while.
Well, I'm trying to
I
think,
like
like,
point
what
and
would
click
you...
games too.
Yeah, I was gonna say point and click, but, like, I'm trying to think, like, maybe...
I like trash. Let's just call me out. I like games that are simple. I like garbage.
Oh, there you go. There's
I
Pickles.
like puzzles and
I would throw
whatever.
Fred in with a category that I fucking love, and I would call that milsim games. Fred falls into that category, and it's a category that I love, and I would love to have more of that, but I only have one friend who's into it. And so it's really hard to start up a community of milsim when there's two of us. But yeah, he's my milsim gamer, and then that leaves us with a Dees, and a Dees, I'm gonna throw you into the MMO category. I know you guys do more than just that, but I guess that's where I'll say your guys' specialties come from, even though it's not entirely accurate. But if I had to throw you into a clique, I guess. So that's who we are. That's what we do. But today we're talking about TTRPGs. We're talking about when you come to the table and you sit down and your friends are like, "We're gonna play this TTRPG. You're gonna be a player." What does that mean? What is expected of you? What should you expect of everyone else? What do you bring to the table? What are some do's and don'ts? So let's start off with the base overarching statement. What does it mean to be a player in a TTRPG? Adis.
I'd say, let's see. Being a player in a TTRPG means coming to the table with an open mind and ready to build a story that is going to focus around a group rather than an individual.
Ooh, okay. That was a good one. Fred, what would you say? You would back off that, or would you say something different?
I would agree, but I would also add that when you make your character, do not make one that is purposely adversarial to everyone he meets.
We'll definitely get into that topic for sure. Pickles, what would you say it means to be a player in a TTRPG?
If we're saying simple, I'd just say yes and.
That's true.
It's all about just improvising with what you're given, and you try and make a story, but you don't really like. I mean, it's a group effort, so you're just providing one element, and as long as you yes and, you're not the adversarial player.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you yes and, you're doing something for the group.
Yeah, that's a great way to say that. My thought was going to be like in college or whatever, it's a community project where you have a couple, it's a group project. You all come together and you all have your different parts, and you all have to come to the table with your parts. If someone doesn't do their part, they're going to show up and it's going to be very evident that part wasn't done. I ate my hair. Okay. It's going to be very evident that someone didn't do their part, but as long as you just do your part and you show up to the table ready to go with what you have, and then you're able to play off at what everybody else has. But I like the way you guys put it. I think all of that together does a pretty good sum up. So you come to the table, you sit down with your buds, you're going to play a TTRPG. We know that is basically a storytelling game based on the podcast that we did a couple weeks ago now. You sit down and you build this group storytelling game. What would you say, just off the rip, would be expected of a player when he comes to the game? Whether that's for the very first time or just every session. What is expected of that player? What should they be bringing to the table? How should they be acting? Maybe not how should they be acting, because I want to get into do's and don'ts of players afterwards. Mm-hmm. So maybe just what is expected of a player. Whoever wants to talk it off.
I'd say off the rip,
No, you go ahead. I was gonna say I'll go. I'm happy going last.
Sounds good.
Pickles was gonna interrupt you to let you know that he wants to go after you.
Nobody was talking. I didn't know.
I know.
Oh man. Yeah, so I'd say off the rip, probably the biggest thing that you'd be expected to do coming to the table would be to know your character sheet, as in like know your character, and know your motivations for your character, because that's going to influence how you're going to do pretty much everything in the session, like your improvisation. It's going to influence the way that you do battle tactics. It'll bleed into so many other things if we don't have to sit there waiting 30 minutes for somebody to make an attack action. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, I think I'll let you guys speak, but piggybacking off that, I think those were two great points. So, know your character sheet. That's huge. And I ask that of my players for every session. Now, granted, if it's a new system, if it's, it can be tough. You're like, I don't know what this means. Like, I have a +2 for something sometimes somewhere. Like, yeah, it can be tough, but learn it. If you're in combat and okay, I get a +2 whenever I do this attack. Next time you come in, don't be like, I don't know what any of that means. Be like, okay, I learned that I get this, learn and know your character sheet. I absolutely agree. I love that. The other thing was know your motivations. So I think there's a big one. I don't think anyone really knows their character, especially right off the rip, like from the start. Like no one knows the voice. I mean, Torvekik. Did you expect to have a Middle Eastern European accent?
It was a last-minute decision.
Exactly. So he just came to the table, and all of a sudden, like, it came out and it worked. And so I don't think anyone directly knows. Like, you don't know everything about your character when you first sit down. A lot of it you develop, and you learn more about your character as you go. We learned Grunkle had a friend that died named Bear, and like, did he know that from the very get-go? He's gonna say yes, but he's a liar.
Yep.
I knew it. I knew you're.
But like I knew Grunkle when I started. Like I knew his motivations and sort of where he'd been.
Exactly.
So it's easy to just improvise off of that when you know your core character.
Yeah. And that, like you said, that's gonna give you a great way to improv. Like you're put in this situation. How does your character react? Well, okay, it can be simple. My character is money focused. They really want to gain money. So I'm going to do something that is going to push that way. Rather than, I don't know. I eat my hair. No, something. I love that. Good points. What do you guys say? What's expected of a character when they a player, excuse me.
What to expect from another player that's coming in? Is that what you're saying?
What is expected of a player?
To be
Actually,
willing...
that would be if you got a point on that. That would be interesting. Like, what should you expect of the other players who are coming? If you have a point on that, that would be good to hear.
Expect them to be wanting to work with you. Like off my point of not being adversarial as soon as you get in. You are allowed to be a character that takes no bullshit or is just a cranky old man or something like that. But it's a fine line between playing the cranky old man and just telling everybody to fuck off.
Yeah, being a team player. Actually, this relates to, I'm going to bring out an instance. King's Crossing, Episode 1. Episode 1, yes. King's Crossing, Episode 1. We find ourselves in Hobbs Lodge Tavern, where Grunkle sits eating a bowl of,
It was soup.
Stew.
What's wrong with eating soup? I wasn't adversarial.
That wasn't the problem. Until a dwarf comes wandering down the road, comes into the lodge, sits down, and Grunkle goes, "Oh, hey, buddy, we're going to be friends." And he goes, "No, fuck off." And I was like, "What?"
Okay, so what I said was a little bit stupid, yes.
No, it had nothing to do with what you said.
No, I get it. I'm a dick sometimes, and I'm working on it.
No. Okay, so the way I was playing that was as the dick character.
No, yeah, it worked out.
It did, yes.
Yeah.
And it is continuing to work out.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's a fine line between playing the dick and actually being one.
I had meetings with them, I think at least 2, where I sat down and was like, you guys have to get along. Like you have to be friends at some point. Like it doesn't work if you're not. So I need you two to like be okay with each other. And they're like, yeah, no, we're perfect. We got this. And then we show up to the
I
first
was
game.
like, I'm trying not.
We show up to the first game, and Grunkle goes, "Oh, hey, buddy, we're friends now." And Torvik was like, "No, but not. Fuck off." And I was like, "You asshole!" And the game's over. Like episode 1.
But it worked out.
It did. It did absolutely worked out.
I knew exactly what I was doing.
I was literally sitting here going, "You motherfuckers!" Like I told you. But they worked it in, and it worked out, and they've been traveling together ever since, so it worked out. But yes, that exactly what you're talking about. There's a fine line. You gotta be careful, because I've had far too many games where the players. I've been a player where you get into a game and you're like, we're not gonna get along. This is. And I've had games. I believe it was one of Pickle's games. One of the players was playing a Batman type character.
Yep.
And I was trying to. I mean, I probably could have tried harder.
1920s Batman.
I probably could have tried harder, but I was trying to be a team player, and they were just like the asshole character, and they would be an asshole to me, and I'm just sitting here like, why am I helping you? Like, why am I traveling with this guy? Like, he's just a dick to me. Like, can't I just travel by myself? Yeah. So that's a fine line. Not to leave Pickles off, what is expected of a player coming into a session?
This is the worst timing. My wife just got home, so I gotta be right back real quick. I'm so sorry.
Saved by the wife.
Yeah.
A
relationships. You can tell none of us are running off to say hi to our wives. Pickles is just a better man than all of us. We just leave our wives out there. Anyways, we'll talk D&D so we don't cry. Okay, so yeah, let's talk physical things. What's expected of a player coming into a session? Notes. Notes are huge, and you brought that up, Notebook. It's huge. Especially for me. Speaking for myself, I forget things. So taking notes is immeasurably beneficial. In that, and from a DM standpoint for King's Crossing, there are so many clues and like, I almost said innuendos. That's not the word. Like foreshadowings to things that are gonna like tie-ins that are gonna happen in the future. For instance, this is one that I didn't do super well, but their group came across a statue who they were just like, oh, okay, this is a scene, it's a statue. It kind of felt like a random encounter, right? It's just kind of like a random encounter.
Yeah, it was like,
okay, there's a statue scene thing that we stumbled across. Well, then they come to find out later that it all ties in, and that was actually something that tied into what they're currently working on. And it was like, oh, but if they didn't take any notes of any of that, they're like, I don't remember anything about that statue. Like, what? There was a statue? Oh, yeah. I'd say notes. Notes are huge, and I would agree with you on a notepad. So notepad and note-taking equipment, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Okay, we'll go to Fred. What would you say, like, anything else required by a player to show up with or be prepared for or have at the ready?
Ready to actually roleplay instead of just wanting to sit there and fight. You know how sometimes you'll get those characters that just are there for the fighting rather than the role playing?
Yeah, or I would even expand on that. There's people who show up and aren't super open-minded, and so they come in and they're like, I don't want to talk. Or like, this is awkward and I don't want to do it. And you're like, if you just do it, no one's going to make fun of you. Like, I do a bunch of voices now for King's Crossing. And literally, I had a friend come over during yesterday's session. And they were sitting out there doing their homework and stuff in my living room out there, and my door was open. And I got done, and like, you do a lot of really silly voices. I was like, yeah, but honestly, you just commit to it, and no one makes fun of me. It works out, and it's even gotten to the point where they've started to recognize some of my silly voices as different characters, and they're like, oh, I know who this is. Like, I know who's talking to me. I don't have to be like, and Dibs says,
I do have.
And Dib
more
says,
if
"Hey,
you want.
fuckers."
Yeah.
Hey, fuckers. Like, people would be like, that doesn't sound like Dibs. You have to do Dibs' voice. I swear, if I went back to not doing voices, I bet Adis would be like, no, you have to do Dibs' voice.
No,
Like,
go back.
Do the voice.
that's not what he says.
Yeah.
That's not
Do
what
the
he
roar.
says, Raph. He says,
Do
hey,
the roar.
hey, censored. What else were you gonna say? Fred?
Also, man, I forgot what I was gonna say. I'll be there for like, do the voices, do the things, make sure to stay in character when when it's applicable, and be sure to separate you and your character at the end of the session.
Expand on that. What do you mean?
Like if somebody's character in game does something that would piss your character off, don't
That's right,
carry
I'm
that
with it.
outside the session.
Yep.
You know,
Mhm.
don't be mad at the person that was playing that character, because it's not technically you two that you were mad at each other. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, that's very true. And that's even something, I mean, I've been at this a long time, and that's even something that I'm like, struggle with sometimes, where I'm like, damn, Detective Verde is kind of a fucking dick to me. What the fuck, Fred? And Fred's like, no, I'm fine. I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know?
Just a character, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So I mean, and to be fair, it makes sense for your character to not like Travis King. It does make sense. No, that's a good one. There's something I was gonna expand on this. Yeah, I would say just don't be afraid to roleplay. It's not required. You can come in and you could be like, I mean, you don't have to be like, oh, and then I said to him, like, you could be like, oh, my character wants to roll charm, and I'd like to maybe use like a sweeter voice to like try and show them that I'm not hostile. I'll say something like, you know, oh, I'm here as a friend. I'd like to help you out. Perfectly fine. Like, you don't have to go in and like do a voice, and I know plenty of people who play and don't use voices and so on and so forth. But I would say be open to rope. Like, don't be afraid. Is a good one. So going off that, Mr. Pickles.
Yes.
Answer both the questions.
Yes, I have answers for both questions.
I'm ready.
Okay,
I don't
question
remember
number
what the
one.
two questions were, so go for it.
Well, shoot, now my memory is already draining down the sink. The first question was, what
What do you
do you
bring?
need to do as a player?
Mhm.
What should be your goal? And I think the first thing is that you should be. Sorry, I thought somebody was saying my name. The first thing I think is that you should be able to learn and articulate what you enjoy about the game. Because I know first-time players, they'll probably join in for the game, and if they like it, they'll be like, yeah, that was fun. I had a good time. And it's difficult to dissect that initially, but I think learning what you actually enjoy, the specific things, the elements that make you happy about the game, make it easier then to articulate to the GM or storyteller or DM, like what you want out of the experience. And I know somebody over there is stroking their beard and thinking this is just like sex. And yes, it's exactly like that. You should learn how to communicate with your partner.
Very true. Yeah.
About what you want. And so, yeah, I brought
Sex
it to
talks with
something you'd
pickles.
understand.
It's not, yeah, I mean, I get that reference. Yeah.
But like seriously though, you should be able to say like to your GM, like, yeah, that was a really weird adventure. I like the ones where we were doing detective stuff in town more. And like with other things too, is just like telling your GM, like, I like it when you do puzzle adventures more so than these military skirmishes where we're fighting on battlefields all game. Or you might say, I love it when you do those things like, hey, Pickles, you remember when we had that one thing where we were all playing like fucking bunnies or some bullshit, and we had mercenary rifles and we had a goal. to kill these people in this house, and
I
you
was
gave it to
Prodigy.
us, and we just
That was great. That was a great game. He's
Yeah.
referencing a really great miniseries.
a one shot that I did as like a whim because
shot. It was a miniseries. We did
okay,
that for
yeah,
like
that's
4
right.
sessions.
That's true. Player was missing, so I improvised. But like figuring out what your players enjoy is part of being the GM, but also your players need to come to the table willing to communicate after learning what they enjoy, so that they can get a better experience within the skills of the GM.
Absolutely. And to piggyback off that, a great example is Under the Table, where after the session, you go to Under the Table, where you're able to communicate and talk about what you really thought of that session, where you're like, hey, no, Wrath, we need time for Under the Table because I have things I want to talk about. And then you get to Under the Table and you're like, yeah, we don't really have anything to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
You're just never going to let that go, are you?
No, I'm never going to let that go. I was so mad.
I'm really sorry.
I was like, oh, we could go for another half hour. And you guys were like, no, we need to go to Under the Table. And I was like, okay, we'll go to Under the Table. Yeah, we don't have anything. What the fuck?
I thought I had a deck of cards, and then I drew them, and the first one was a blank, and the next one was a blank. I'm like, who the fuck made a deck of cards? It's just blanks. Why are they all blanks?
At the time, I was mad. Not like actually mad, but I was mad because I was like, what the fuck? But now I'm just laughing because it's funny. But true story,
I was hoping other people had more, but yeah.
It was a bluff. You're like, no, we have a lot of things. Come on, guys, come up with things. And then
I'm not the smart player. I'm the.
But yeah, I would agree. Be able to articulate what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy, because like we've talked about in what is a TTRPG, and when we talked about what does it mean to DM, you write for your players. You build the framework and then you fill it in with stuff for your players. But if your players are like, yeah, we don't like anything, you're just like, what the fuck? Okay, nothing happens. You sit there in a bar ordering drinks. Good job. What is this? D in Discord?
yeah, that was D in Discord. The second time round.
For those of you who don't know, we tried to start a text-based D&D game in the Discord chat
twice,
and it ended up I think it was just me sitting in a bar drinking beer, and that's all that happened.
Well, some people came in talking about quests they wanted to hire people for, but everybody kept being like, I have a quest to hire people for, and it's like, well, but we have no adventurers. Yeah. We're all just a bunch of merchants.
We're all quest givers.
Yeah, like come on.
Yeah.
And then you band together as a group of quest givers that all go out and do each other's quests at one at a time.
No, we all go on a quest to find adventurers to do our quests. We have to go find some adventurers quick.
That could be fun.
That would be a very interesting miniseries. I wouldn't want a full fucking campaign, but like a miniseries, I could see it.
The next miniseries.
Except the next miniseries, I'm making a normal character because I'm tired of these fucking. I almost said blowjobs. That's not it. I'm never tired of blowjobs. I'm tired of like these weirdos. Why did I? Anyways.
Well, because I put sex on your mind.
Yes,
and you're thinking D&D and sex.
Pickles got me.
And that leads,
Sure, we got sex talks with Pickles.
Yeah. We have whiskey sips with the D's, and we have sex talk with Pickles.
I went to school for this.
The pickled birds and the pickled bees. I don't know. Anyways,
second question was, what do you require from the players? You're the one asking the questions. Why are you shrugging at me?
I don't remember my question.
And the answer was, notepads and not being adversarial. And I would also say sharing your plans. Sharing your plans is a great one.
That's a great one.
With the players at the bare goddamn minimum. Sorry for swearing, but like, please, like,
we talked about blowjobs, but damn.
Yeah, I don't want to offend anybody. Like, it's just sharing your plans with each other is the bare minimum, and of course, it's good to share your plans with the GM, because if you're in a healthy relationship with the GM, then they'll take that and expand on it and make it more interesting and more satisfying, add rewards. If you have a bad GM or a bad relationship with them,
and start being able to insert little clues towards your plans into the story overall.
Exactly.
Like, there's a thing in the mud somewhere.
It's an arm.
No,
somewhere.
Different thing, not an arm.
We found an arm.
Dees also, Adarag is like, my arm!
My arm!
It's gone!
Not to my arm. Hurry.
Continue.
But like, yeah, if you have a bad relationship with your GM, you'll be saying things like, "Oh, we don't want you to make our plans too difficult by us telling them to you." Like that. That's
Actually, I
a
think
that's a
that
bad
happened
thing.
to Pickles, didn't it?
It's happened many times before, and that's a moment where I think you, as the GM, have to like take a step back and be like, "So why don't they trust me? Do I seem too punitive here? Am I
Mhm.
punishing them for having these creative thoughts that just like destroy my plot?" Like, because that's easy when you're a beginner GM and you're 15 years old and you're kind of a weird beanstalk person and you don't feel comfortable about yourself, and people are like, "Oh, your clever thing, we just throw a rock at it and it dies." It's like,
This,
oh,
this is getting very
what?
personal.
uh, and I took that personally.
Cut to
Podcast.
commercial.
Yeah, my jelly bean thing pops because you hit it with the rock. Good job, good job. You ruined everything. I didn't think you'd do that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
if you have a good relationship with your GM, then you should be sharing your plans with them as well as with your group.
Yeah. Oh man, there was something I was gonna add to that. One thing, yes. One thing that I don't think we covered when we talked about TTRPG or DMing, we might have briefed over it, but it's not a game of winning. Like, the DM isn't trying to win. The players aren't trying to win. No one's trying to win or lose. There isn't a win or lose. You're just continuing the story. As long as the story is continuing and you're having fun, which I believe Pickles brought up in one of those episodes, have fun.
Mhm.
As long as the story is continuing and everyone's having fun, you're all winning. The DM isn't trying to. I know there are different styles of DMing and different types of games out there. So if someone listening to this has a different style that they want to argue with me about, fine. I won't play in your game because I think that's stupid. But you can argue your point. It's perfectly fine. But I know there are DMs out there who are like, "Yeah, I just did a TKO and wiped out all my players," and I'm like, "Why?"
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I will do that if my players are fucking stupid. Like if my players are like, we dive into the volcano, or we attack the knight captain of the King's Guard at level 1 because we are dumb. Then I'm like, I don't know how to save you. Like,
I'm gonna take on the Corsair fleet.
Yeah,
at
I'm gonna
level 1.
ram the blockade with my dinghy. Yes. True story. That is what happened.
And Grunkle belly danced there.
That's true. Drunkle did tell him belly dance to save his comrades, and
Oh wait, no, that's not right. I used a trait that I had that Grunkle was so innocent that once per game session I had the ability to like, I think it was something like you can make people hesitate on violence or something.
yeah, that sounds right. Yep.
And so they were like, okay, instead of slaughtering these two miscreants that you hang out with, Grunkle. And I'm like, I'm an ogre. I
Well,
don't
he
know why
tried to
I'm the
belly dance and he
goodest
tripped
one.
and fell, and everyone was very confused what was happening.
That was in front of the Jarl,
The Jarl, the
the
lord of the
Jarl.
town. You went before the
Yeah,
lord of the town in his like throne room and started
yeah.
belly dancing and tripped and fell, and everyone's like, "What is happening right now?"
First off, I did say I would like you guys to let my friends go. I will take them away from this land. I did a belly dance and got a critical fail and tripped.
Yep.
But they should have known, unless I was just like, and then I tripped.
You know what?
In that case, yeah, I don't blame them for not understanding.
Yeah.
But
See,
speak,
and that's what I'm
speak
talking about.
ogre.
Like that right there, the story was continuing, and I was having a lot of fun with that. But as long as the story is continuing, and you're having fun, you're doing all right.
Yeah, they
No one's trying
poisoned
to
the
win.
well because they weren't having fun at that point.
Oh yeah, that's right. They tried to poison the entire town because they couldn't kill the knight captain of the King's Guard.
Yeah, I guess they did let them out. Maybe they were so amused by my critical failure that I think they ended up being like, okay, yeah, just take your friends away, you goof.
That's right. It was. Yeah, they were
You
like,
goof
"Hey,
troop."
that's right." Yeah, because they were like, "You can have them, but you have to leave town. Like, we don't want you here."
Oh, and they took Grunkle's armband.
You guys got exiled, yep. And as you guys got exiled, you tried to poison the town and attack them, and they were like, "Okay, now we're gonna kill you." And
I did not try to poison the town. That
Sure.
was. No, not
and
sure.
that's where we ended the campaign, and I was called the worst DM ever. And then they went on to make their own game where they tried to cut off his dick. So
No, they succeeded at cutting off my dick, but my
Nah,
gnomish dick. was a bad time. We went down a dark path of expectations of players, and like, I don't know,
Gotta go down with
that's
the
where
ship.
expectations of your GM are critical. And I think the problem with what they did there is they didn't articulate what they wanted to do with you. They
Mhm.
wanted to play a scoundrel thief and a evil wizard lady, and I wanted to play a heroic ogre guy because I was like, isn't it hilarious, the idea of an evil monster being like, I want to save kittens from trees. And so for me, I had a mismatch with players. I think they didn't articulate to you at all what they wanted. But you're doing
What was my
scrunchel face.
Minotaur's name?
Took.
Took. I was like, I can't remember his name.
But not like the
Took.
Canadian hat, TUK.
Yeah, Took was my version of Grunkle. Is a monstrous character trying to be a hero, trying to save kittens from trees. Which I think
That's
he actually
right.
did save a cat from a tree.
Yeah, your first adventure, you saved a cat from lizard folk that were going to torture and then eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took. I like Took.
TTRPGs.
The problem with that one though was that I wasn't running Warhammer correctly, and you spent like an hour just swinging at this lizard folk and him swinging at you, but you both had like 30% chance of success.
I do remember that. Yeah, it was miss, 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 and it went on forever.
It's like, well, nothing's happening, but you guys sure are swinging a lot.
Yeah. And
Know
then
your system, GMs.
I think that game kind of crashed and burned after we tried to bring in other players, and like the first one showed up walking out of like an explosion just bloody as all fuck, and I was like, you're my new friend? Like, he's like, yeah, I just like murdered a lot of people. I'm like, what? And then the other one was some chick who just kept following us around and never talking to us, but she would just linger right at the edge of our vision. She was like that little fleck in your eye that you can see but you can never like look at.
Gotta work together.
Teamwork. It was the dream team for sure. We're totally off topic now. We're talking about
But those were the
games.
2 questions, and I answered them.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's talk about as a player, what should you expect of your DM then? You brought up a good point, being able to share your plans and communicate with them and have them work with you. Do you two have anything?
I think that's mostly what I expect out of a DM. Besides not actively trying to fuck you over.
The only thing that I would add is, and we kind of briefed over this, but giving you, I guess, 2 things. Giving you spotlight, that your character has time to grow and time to, show their personality and everything, but also really give you wins. And I would say give you wins and loss. Give you a roller coaster. Because you can't really appreciate the win if all you do is win, then no one ever wins.
All I do is win, win, win.
But give you a roller coaster, because like I want those character building moments in the losses where we got our asses handed to us and we're sitting out in the rain in the middle of a storm, hiding in the trees from these monsters that we just ran away from. Give us those character building moments where like, damn, like this is or those moments where you trip and fall and go face first into a dead rhino and you're getting stabbed by little creatures and you're like, I bet you're wondering how I got here.
That was
Record
good.
scratch.
Like those kind of character building moments, the lows, and then also the highs where you come back into town and the townspeople are coming out and getting around you and helping you walk into the town. They're like, thank you so much, like welcome back, we're gonna throw a festival, like woo, Grunkle, and you're like, yeah, go away Bjorn, yeah, everyone else,
Yeah.
No comment from Pickles on that.
I'm thinking, or maybe like when you get to your truck and you're like, okay, I'm gonna get away, and oh, my dog's about to jump into the truck.
Oh, that was a great moment. Yes.
That pissed you off so much, and you just got out of your truck and pulled out your
I
gun
did.
and was like,
Literally,
fuck
we're
this
getting
goblin freak.
We're getting swarmed by monsters, and I got in the truck and was ready to escape. This is going back to Strange Town Golden Ridge, a Savage Worlds campaign. My Mr. Pickles coming back real soon. Yeah, I got in the truck and my dog didn't make it. It got attacked, and I was like, fuck it. Got out of the truck. I don't care. There's monsters all around. They're diving off rooftops. I was like, I'm getting my dog. But like, it was a great moment, and like I will remember that.
You use the like wild attack actions. You do 3 attacks at really low accuracy.
Yeah, because I was just
You're like, I need to hit
"Ah!"
this thing.
I go like this, but I had a pistol. I don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say you didn't have an extender on your pistol.
I was like, God.
I assumed you're doing more of like the cop hold on it. Like you were walking for bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, we'll go with that. That's better.
Yeah, you weren't talking an invisible shotgun. But yeah, that was one of those moments where I really felt like I got a reaction out of you, and then you succeeded at solving the situation.
Absolutely, that was a great moment. As much as like that not session that
Adventure sucked.
Yeah, the adventure. I wouldn't say sucked, but it was odd. It was boggling. Boggling is the word I would use because I never knew what. It was unpredictable. I never knew what the fuck I was supposed to do or what I was doing next or what was gonna happen. But it ended on such a note that I'm like, yeah, that was a great session. So, anyways, what do you expect of your DM? Moments like that. Moments where, I mean, that's the heart of what I would say a TTRPG is. That storytelling with friends to where you can go back months later and be like, yo, remember that moment? We fucking took a dinghy and rammed the Corsair blockade with the dinghy. I mean, granted, I got Spartan kicked in the face, but we rammed the
blockade.
Yeah, like those kind of moments is like I'll remember that. Like I didn't even write that; they wrote that. Like I can't even take credit for it. But it was a great moment where I was sitting here and I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's roll for it! That's awesome."
Let's try it.
Yeah, I guess if y'all haven't already said it, that's another thing is don't be afraid to do something awesome because chances are if the DM is a cool guy, he'll let you have the cool points.
Rule of cool.
You might fail and get Spartan kicked in the face, but but it was cool.
Oh yeah, obviously you got obviously you still got to roll for it,
but it was cool.
It set up my story perfectly.
It did. Maybe that's what happened because even Tough Nuts was like, I feel like I'm supposed to be more the leader, but like Adarag kind of it was the moment with Dibs where you were like, Adarag is just kind of like going along and like being like childlike with him. Maybe you got kicked in the head so hard.
It reset my personality.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, I'll hang out with Dibs.
I like that.
You're gonna get hit in the head later and be like, oh,
and like
all of a sudden I know calculus.
All of a sudden I can read all of Nimward's drawings.
You're like, actually, you missed a equation.
You missed
right
a 2.
That'd be funny. But yeah, rule of cool.
Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, moments like that where you're able to highlights that you can go back on and laugh with friends. I mean, it's good times. Good times. I think even Grunkle or Pickles brought one up last session where he remembered when Torvekik was mounted on his shoulder with your crossbow, I think. And he was like, yeah, I'm just a tower with my mounted weapons. Like,
yeah,
those are memories.
I just keep having characters be like, I'm the modifiable or modular tower defense unit.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're their mount, but yeah, you're more like a mobile base unit or something. I don't know.
There was a game, I think it was Command and Conquer, like maybe it was Tiberian Sun or something. It was an RTS with military stuff, and there was one team that got specifically like they'd have these towers, and you could modify it to be specific things. Like you'd build the tower, it would function as like a machine gun, but then you could add on top of it like an anti-air thing or an improved like machine gun or a laser thing that would destroy infantry.
Yeah. You're basically their siege tower because you siege and then they jump off of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever gets installed on top of me gets installed. Maybe it's a sentry, maybe it's a dwarven crossbowman, maybe it's a spellcaster with a bow. I don't know.
Ooh.
I keep walking because that's my job.
Or it's just a guy who calls you fucker.
All right, Nimward is making you a mounted shoulder gun that Dibs can man.
Hell yeah.
He's not even like on him anymore. His legs are like flailing out behind him. He's just like ah. Anyways,
All right, Nimwort, roll for Galway minigun.
oh, we're at the end of the hour. Shit. Well, real quick, do's and don'ts. What would you say a do and what would you say a don't is for players? Let's go with Fred. You haven't gotten to kick off and start.
Do's and don'ts.
One
You
do,
said do
one
and
don't.
do.
One do, one don't.
Do be courteous.
Mm.
And a don't would be don't be a dick.
Both are very fair points. I'll give you that. A deuce.
All right.
I can't see him, so I don't know if he's ready or
So we
not.
don't know
I'm
if
paying
he's ready.
attention. I know you're
Yes.
paying attention, so
I'm paying attention.
perfect.
So definitely do be open to the wills of the party.
Yeah.
Don't be the stick in the mud.
Yeah.
And then don't expect to be the main character.
Ooh. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Pickles.
I guess we've talked a lot about all these different things to fine tune your craft. So I'd say do your best, even if your best doesn't include fancy voices. If you're just showing up and you're trying to do at least a couple of the elements well, you're trying to tell a story, even if you can't DM with multiple voices, that kind of thing. Just do your best. Keep trying to grow.
And oh, you
don't
just go to heaven?
What?
Oh.
His whole room just turned white behind him and then faded back. It's like a holy aura. That was weird. And don't what?
Be a bitch. No, but
Don't
I
be
mean
a
that's
dick.
more or
Don't
less
be a bitch. You heard it here.
like it's just yeah. There's a lot of things you could say don't about, but yeah, I guess being flexible. Don't be inflexible. Like, well, that's already been said as well. Like,
Yeah.
be willing to modify
Be
a
unique.
character to fit the group. Like and that kind of flies in the face. Like, don't make Grunkle work with absolute evil criminals who want to burn down neighborhoods and poison wells. But
True.
like, if people are like, "Oh, we want to do this plan," you go, "That's slightly against my character." Don't be inflexible. Don't be that stick in the mud, as Adis
Yeah,
said.
I mean,
Much better.
you can have a paladin character who hangs out with people who do a criminal act. Don't be like, I'm arresting all of you. Find some character arc there to like develop your character off of, and be like, how can I work this in?
Yeah, like you could say your paladin is just he loves good tea, and as your group is committing crimes, just be like, could I look for a tea shop while we're in town while they're committing crimes? You say out of your mouth as the player to the DM.
Mhm.
Like you can develop your character without necessarily changing it.
Yeah.
In that sense, you can still be against the crimes they're committing, but you don't. Your character doesn't know because he got distracted by tea.
Yep.
Weirdo.
Yep. Yeah, that'd be a great character arc. You're a holy paladin who's traveling with a gang of criminals, but you have no idea. you're like, no, they were shopping. I thought they bought all this, right?
You guys bought this, right? Right?
I would say mine are, to wrap this up, I would say mine are these are kind of fall in line with each other, but do be respectful. People pour a lot of time into this. Whether it's the DM pouring in all the time building it, or the players who have poured in all the time building up their characters and building up their, adding to the story, and then all of a sudden you show up and you're like, maybe you don't show up on time, so now everybody's waiting on you, or you show up and you're on your phone and you're not even paying attention, so then when it gets to your turn and they're like, hey, what do you do? And you're like, I don't know what's going on, and they have to reiterate everything that's already been said, and it's just wasting people's time, and like it kills the immersion. So do be respectful. Like, people, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's 3 hours, like, and hopefully if your DM's good and better than me, he'll give you a break at some point during that. So do be respectful, and I would say my don't was like, don't be disrespectful, but that's dumb. I would say don't be fucking weird. Don't show up and rub sunscreen on people, or pull out a 10-pound bag of gummy bears and then ask the host if they have food for you. Don't just be a fucking creep. Don't show up and be like, I'm gonna seduce your girlfriend, and you're like, no, you're not. Why? Stop. Like, by
And I take that personally.
By getting her a platypus.
Yep.
This is all going back to one person. I feel bad targeting them, but they were fucking.
I never
weird.
did.
No, they were the main antagonist of like 4 different games for you.
A player so bad their character kept coming back as a harassment.
Yeah,
I
remember at one point I had to fight like 20 of his characters because they were all the worst people ever. I was like, no, this is my nightmare. I already had to deal with these people as my ally. Now I have to deal with them again.
Yeah, that was a nightmare for everybody involved. Was like, we're living a nightmare.
And that's it for this one. So, Drinks and Discussions, the RPG podcast. This is the Dirty Cast. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something. And we'll see you all in the next one.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I love you.